Fashion is a fickle industry where today's hottest trend can become tomorrow's forgotten fad. In the ever-evolving landscape of retail, brands that once dominated shopping malls and captured the hearts of consumers now struggle to maintain relevance in an increasingly competitive market. Today, we're taking a deep dive into 10 once popular fashion brands that are slowly fading from the spotlight, examining what led to their decline and whether they have any chance of making a comeback. The retail apocalypse has been unfolding for years now, accelerated by the pandemic, changing consumer preferences, and the rise of e-commerce. But beyond these broader trends, each brand has its own unique story of rise and fall. Some were victims of their own success, unable to adapt when their signature styles fell out of favor. Others failed to keep up with digital transformation or lost their identity through multiple ownership changes. Whatever the reason, these brands serve as cautionary tales in an industry where staying power is increasingly rare. Let's start with Abercrombie & Fitch, a brand that was once the epitome of cool for teenagers in the early 2000s. Walking into an Abercrombie store was an experience in itself. Dimly lit interiors, pounding music, overwhelming cologne, and walls adorned with black and white photos of shirtless models. The brand's logo-heavy clothing was a status symbol, and teens would save up just to own a piece of the A&F lifestyle. At its peak around 2007, Abercrombie & Fitch was generating over $4.5 billion in annual revenue. Former CEO Mike Jeffries famously stated that the brand was absolutely exclusionary and only for the cool kids. This strategy worked brilliantly until it didn't. As millennial consumers grew up, they began rejecting the brand's elitist image and lack of inclusivity. The company's refusal to adapt to changing attitudes about body positivity and diversity became increasingly problematic. By 2014, sales had plummeted and Jeffries was forced out. While the brand has attempted a reinvention under new leadership, focusing on quality basics and more inclusive marketing, it's never recaptured its former glory. Today, Abercrombie operates fewer than half the stores it once did, and despite some recent improvements in performance, it remains a shadow of its former self. The brand that once defined a generation's aesthetic is now fighting for relevance in a world that has largely moved on. Next up is Gap, once America's favorite purveyor of casual basics. Founded in 1969 in San Francisco, Gap reached its zenith in the 1990s with its iconic logo hoodies, simple jeans, and khakis. The brand's Individuals of Style campaign featured celebrities like Sharon Stone wearing Gap basics to the Oscars, cementing its status as both accessible and aspirational. Gap's decline began in the early 2000s as fast fashion retailers like H&M and Zara entered the US market, offering trendier styles at lower prices with faster turnover. Gap's once revolutionary basics began to feel boring and overpriced in comparison. The company's attempt to chase trends often resulted in identity confusion, alienating its core customer base without successfully attracting new ones. Despite numerous turnaround attempts, including high-profile designer collaborations and marketing campaigns, Gap has continued to struggle. Between 2019 and 2023, the company announced plans to close hundreds of stores worldwide. Its parent company, Gap Inc., has seen more success with its other brands like Old Navy and Athleta, while the namesake Gap brand continues to search for its place in today's retail landscape. The iconic blue square logo that once symbolized American casual style now represents a cautionary tale of what happens when a brand loses sight of its core identity. Moving on to American Apparel, a brand that revolutionized basics with its Made in USA ethos and provocative marketing. Founded in 1989, American Apparel reached its height in the mid-2000s. Known for colorful basics, controversial advertising featuring amateur models in suggestive poses, and a commitment to domestic manufacturing when most apparel production had moved overseas, the brand's downfall was as dramatic as its rise. Founder Dov Charney's controversial behavior led to his ouster in 2014 amid sexual harassment allegations. The company filed for bankruptcy twice, in 2015 and 2017, before being acquired by Gildan Activewear, which shut down all 110 retail stores and moved production overseas, essentially gutting what made the brand unique. While American Apparel still exists as an online-only retailer, it's a mere ghost of its former self. The brand that once stood for American manufacturing, fair wages, and a certain provocative aesthetic has been reduced to just another label in a Canadian textile company's portfolio. Its rapid expansion, followed by spectacular collapse, serves as a reminder that even the coolest brands can quickly lose their luster when management problems and changing consumer preferences collide. Forever 21 represents another cautionary tale in the fast fashion space. Founded in 1984 by South Korean immigrants Do Won and Jin Suk Chang, the retailer exploded in popularity during the 2000s and early 2010s, becoming a mall staple with its massive stores offering trendy clothing at rock-bottom prices. At its peak, Forever 21 operated more than 700 stores globally and generated $4.4 billion in annual sales. The brand's aggressive expansion proved to be its undoing. Forever 21 took over massive retail spaces, including a 90,000 square foot flagship in Times Square, just as mall traffic was declining and e-commerce was rising. Its fast fashion model, once revolutionary, faced increasing competition from even faster online retailers like Fashion Nova and Shein, which could bring trends to market in days rather than weeks. In September 2019, Forever 21 filed for bankruptcy protection and closed hundreds of stores worldwide. While the brand was purchased by Authentic Brands Group, Simon Property Group, and Brookfield Property Partners in 2020, it never regained its former prominence. Today's Gen Z consumers are increasingly concerned with sustainability and ethical production, values that clash with Forever 21's disposable fashion model. The brand that once defined mall fashion for a generation now struggles to find its footing in a post-mall world. Victoria's Secret presents perhaps one of the most dramatic falls from grace in retail history. For decades, the lingerie giant dominated the market with its push-up bras, annual televised fashion shows featuring angels, and pink-striped shopping bags that served as status symbols. At its peak in the mid-2010s, Victoria's Secret controlled nearly 32% of the U.S. lingerie market. The brand's decline coincided with changing attitudes about beauty standards and femininity. As body positivity and inclusivity became cultural priorities, Victoria's Secret's narrow definition of sexy, typically thin, predominantly white models with a specific body type, began to feel outdated and even offensive to many consumers. Competitors like Savage X Fenty by Rihanna and Aerie embraced diversity in sizing, models, and messaging, stealing market share. In 2019, Victoria's Secret canceled its fashion show after years of declining viewership. The brand has since attempted a rebrand, replacing Angels with the VS Collective, featuring diverse ambassadors including Megan Rapinoe and Priyanka Chopra Jonas. However, sales continue to struggle, and the brand's parent company, L Brands, spun off Victoria's Secret as a separate company in 2021. While Victoria's Secret still maintains a significant market presence, its cultural relevance has diminished dramatically, and its future remains uncertain in an era that increasingly values authenticity over fantasy. J.Crew represents a different kind of retail decline, the fall of a once prestigious specialty retailer. Under the creative direction of Jenna Lyons from 2008 to 2017, J.Crew transformed from a preppy catalog brand into a fashion powerhouse that even dressed First Lady Michelle Obama. Its colorful cashmere, statement costume jewelry, and quirky preppy aesthetic created a distinctive look that influenced American style. J.Crew's troubles began with an ill-timed leveraged buyout in 2011 that saddled the company with nearly $2 billion in debt. As the brand attempted to move upmarket with higher prices, it alienated core customers while failing to attract enough luxury shoppers. Quality issues began to plague the once reliable basics, and the distinctive Jenna Lyons look eventually fell out of fashion without a clear new identity to replace it. In May 2020, J.Crew became the first major retailer to file for bankruptcy during the pandemic. While it emerged from bankruptcy later that year, the brand continues to struggle with identity and relevance. Recent attempts to recapture its former glory include bringing back former menswear designer Brendan Babinsian and focusing on quality basics. But J.Crew faces an uphill battle in a crowded market where its once unique position has been eroded by numerous competitors. The brand that once defined American smart casual style now fights to distinguish itself from the crowd. Diesel, the Italian denim brand founded by Renzo Rosso in 1978, was once synonymous with premium jeans and edgy marketing. In the 1990s and early 2000s, Diesel's distinctive denim with its red tab and innovative washes commanded premium prices and enjoyed cult status among fashion-forward consumers. The brand's provocative "For Successful Living" advertising campaigns won numerous awards and cemented its reputation as a boundary-pushing label. Diesel's decline came as premium denim became an increasingly crowded category, with brands like True Religion, 7 for All Mankind, and later, direct-to-consumer companies like Everlane, offering compelling alternatives. The 2008 financial crisis hit luxury denim particularly hard as consumers questioned spending $200 or more on a pair of jeans. Meanwhile, Diesel's attempts to expand into other categories diluted its core identity. By 2019, Diesel USA filed for bankruptcy protection, citing falling sales and expensive leases. While the global brand continues under Rosso's OTB group, it has never recaptured its former cultural cachet. Recent attempts at revitalization include appointing Glenn Martins as creative director and focusing on sustainability. But Diesel faces the challenge of convincing a new generation that its premium denim is worth the price in a market increasingly dominated by more affordable options or true luxury brands. The brand that once made denim aspirational now struggles to stand out in a sea of blue jeans. Juicy Couture represents perhaps the most dramatic rise and fall tied to a specific trend. Founded in 1997 by Pamela Skase-Levy and Gella Nash-Taylor, Juicy became a global phenomenon in the early 2000s with its velour tracksuits featuring the brand name emblazoned across the backside. Celebrities from Paris Hilton to Jennifer Lopez were photographed in the comfortable yet status-signaling loungewear, driving massive demand. At its peak, Juicy Couture was generating over $605 million in annual sales, but the brand became too closely associated with a specific moment in fashion: the blingy, logo-heavy aesthetic of the early 2000s. When fashion moved toward minimalism post-recession, Juicy's tracksuits quickly felt dated. The brand's owners, Liz Claiborne Inc., later Fifth and Pacific, sold Juicy to Authentic Brands Group in 2013 for $195 million, a fraction of its former value. ABG closed all Juicy Couture stores in the US and moved the brand down market to outlets like Kohl's, effectively ending its premium positioning. While Y2K fashion has seen a revival among Gen Z, benefiting Juicy somewhat, the brand has never recaptured its former status. Today, Juicy Couture exists primarily as a licensing operation, with its iconic tracksuits serving as nostalgic reminders of a bygone era rather than current fashion statements. The brand that once defined celebrity casual wear now serves primarily as a case study in the dangers of being too closely tied to a single trend. Topshop, once the crown jewel of British high street fashion, represents the decline of a retail institution. Founded in 1964, Topshop reached its zenith in the 2000s and early 2010s under the leadership of Sir Philip Green's Arcadia Group. The brand was known for translating runway trends into affordable versions at lightning speed, with its Oxford Circus flagship in London serving as a tourist destination and fashion hub. Topshop's unique position came from its ability to feel more premium and fashion-forward than other high street retailers, bolstered by collaborations with Kate Moss and showing at London Fashion Week. However, the brand failed to invest sufficiently in e-commerce as shopping habits changed, while faster and cheaper competitors like ASOS and Boohoo gained ground online. The final blow came when Arcadia Group collapsed into administration in November 2020, a casualty of the pandemic, changing shopping habits and years of underinvestment. ASOS purchased the Topshop brand and intellectual property in 2021, but not its physical stores, ending the brand's high street presence. While Topshop continues as an online-only brand under ASOS, it has lost the unique positioning and cultural relevance it once enjoyed. The fall of Topshop marked the end of an era in British retail and highlighted how quickly even the most established fashion brands can disappear from the physical landscape. Finally, let's look at Esprit, a brand that many younger consumers might not even recognize despite its former global prominence. Founded in 1968 in San Francisco, Esprit reached its peak in the 1980s and 1990s as a colorful, socially conscious alternative to more conservative retailers. Its casual wear featured bright colors, bold graphics, and an optimistic, multicultural ethos that resonated with consumers worldwide. Esprit's decline began in the early 2000s as it lost focus and failed to clearly define its target customer. The brand became caught in a no-man's land, not cheap enough to compete with fast fashion, not premium enough to justify higher prices, and not distinctive enough to command loyalty. By 2012, Esprit had closed all its North American stores, retreating from the very market where it was born. While Esprit continues to operate in Europe and Asia, it has never regained its former prominence. Multiple turnaround attempts have failed to revive the brand, which has struggled with identity and relevance in an increasingly crowded market. In 2020, Esprit announced it would close all its physical stores in Asia outside mainland China, further reducing its global footprint. The brand that once stood for colorful optimism and social consciousness has faded into retail obscurity, remembered more for its vintage pieces than its current offerings. These 10 brands share common threads in their decline: failure to adapt to changing consumer preferences, overexpansion, identity confusion, and the challenge of digital transformation. Some, like Abercrombie Fitch and J.Crew, are actively fighting for relevance with strategic pivots. Others, like American Apparel and Topshop, exist primarily as online shadows of their former selves. A few, like Esprit, have largely disappeared from the consciousness of American consumers. Their stories serve as cautionary tales for today's retail darlings. No matter how popular a brand becomes, fashion is inherently cyclical, and consumer loyalty can't be taken for granted. The most successful brands manage to evolve while maintaining their core identity, something these fading retailers struggle to accomplish. As we look to the future, it's worth considering which of today's hottest brands might be on tomorrow's endangered list. Will fast fashion giants like Shein face a reckoning as sustainability concerns grow? Could direct-to-consumer darlings lose their edge as they expand into traditional retail? The only certainty in fashion is change itself, and the brands that survive will be those that manage to stay relevant without losing sight of what made them special in the first place. What do you think? Are there any once beloved fashion brands you miss? Or are there current retailers you believe are headed for trouble? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the business of fashion and retail.